All right, guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 most overrated teams going in the next college football season. It is echoing in the background. Fair warning, it is storming, so if you hear anything, sorry about that. But let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? All right, so starting off at number 10, Texas A&M. All right, so what you're going to see on each team, I'll have the record from last year at the top, and then on that bottom, that's basically the highest I found them ranked this year on ESPN, on Yahoo, on Bleacher Report, anywhere you find your rankings. So Texas A&M, all right, last year 7-6, found them as high as number 23. They lose their head coach Jimbo Fisher. Now they bring in Mike Elko. I don't think they'll be bad. Mike Elko is a pretty good head coach. He did pretty good things at Duke, but they lose so much in the transfer portal that I don't see any way this is a ranked team by the end of the season. Last year I think they were talented enough, but they lost again so much talent in the transfer portal. I don't see it happening year one for Mike Elko. Next up, USC. Last year, 8-5, high is number 19 this season. Lincoln Riley, I'm a big fan of. I think he's a pretty good head coach. Kind of gets a bad rap because he did go to USC. They had a down year last year. I had them in my preseason top 5 last year. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. Caleb Williams was pretty impressive. All right, was the best player on the field at all times almost. And they had a pretty disappointing year because besides Caleb Williams, they had pretty much no help. And so what are they going to do this year without Caleb Williams? You've got Miller Moss now at quarterback. How's that going to look? I don't see how, even if you improve the rest of the team, how you can be better than you were last year by losing the number 1 overall pick. I don't see it happening. All right, number 8, Oklahoma. All right, Oklahoma, last year 10-3, saw them as high as number 13. All right, they lose their best player, Dillon Gabriel. And without Dillon Gabriel, Brent Venables at Oklahoma has not done very well. All right, so the year before last year, like I said, last year they went 10-3, but the year before that, Dillon Gabriel got hurt for the majority of the season, and they were abysmal. They were terrible. I thought Brent Venables probably should have been fired year one after that. It was that bad. You've got Jackson Arnold at quarterback now. You're headed to the SEC, so you're going to have a little tougher competition. I don't see how this is a ranked team this year. I'm sure they will be in the preseason polls because it's Oklahoma. But again, you lose your best player, Dillon Gabriel. You've got a new quarterback. All right, he looked okay in the bowl game, but okay at best probably. So how are you going to look going forward? I don't think it's going to be very good. All right, number 7, Tennessee. All right, I think they are going to be improved from last year. Last year 9-4, but I don't think they're quite top 10-ish. All right, I saw them as high as number 12. You replaced Joe Milton with Nico. Now that's an improvement automatically. I thought he should have started all year last year. I think they will be a top 25 team for sure. But number 12, I think that might be reaching just a little bit. I think they'll be a top 20-ish, probably top 25, top 20. But number 12, I think, is a little out of their range right now. Number 6, Washington. Okay, so I don't have them ranked at all in my top 25. They bring in Jedd Fisch. Obviously, they lost their coach, Kalen DeBoer, to Alabama to replace Nick Saban. Last year, 14-1, made it to the national championship. I've seen them as high as number 12 as of this month. I'm not really sure why. They lose a lot of pieces from last year to the draft and in the transfer portal. All right, their quarterback looks like it's probably going to be Will Rogers from Mississippi State. Had a couple good years. All right, really good years at Mississippi State. Broke some records there, but this last season not too good under a different offense. But Jedd Fisch, he's a pretty solid head coach. Did good things at Arizona this past season, but they lose so much, and they're headed to the Big Ten. I don't see how they can have much success this year. Number 5, Arizona. All right, Noah Fifita comes back. All right, they also bring back some other pieces, their receiver in particular, McMillan. Last year, 10-3, seen them as high as number 11. I think they do have a chance to win the Big 12, but the only thing with me is, all right, you bring in a new head coach. Jedd Fisch went to Washington. You bring in Brent Brennan from San Diego State? Excuse me, yeah, San Diego State. Noah Fifita, I think, is good enough to win you a lot of ball games, but with a new coach, you really never know what you're going to get. I don't have them in my top 25. When they had Jedd Fisch, this was probably a college football playoff team. But with a new head coach, I'm going to need to see a little more. They could shock me. All right, they could be a top 25 team as far as potentially even winning the Big 12 and making the college football playoff. But you really never know what you're going to get when you get that coaching change, despite having some of the same talent as last year. Our number 4, LSU. Last year, 10-3 under Brian Kelly. High is number 10 that I've seen them this year. They do actually have an outsider shot at making the college football playoff, but they lose so much production from last year. Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. How are they going to look this year? Reports are Garrett Nussmeier looks pretty good in spring ball. but I don't think he can replicate that Heisman level production that Daniels had. And they do have a somewhat favorable schedule. I could see them kind of being in that top 15 come season's end, but having them at number 10 with losing everything they lost, I think that's just kind of a reach right now. All right, number 3, Michigan. All right, we know they lost a ton. Jim Harbaugh's gone, J.J. McCarthy's gone, Blake Corum's gone. Lost a ton to the draft. You've basically got Donovan Edwards and Orji coming back in your backfield. Last year, obviously, the national champions, really dominant. I've seen them in a lot of people's top 10s. Now, Sherrone Moore, I think he deserved the job for sure. How's he going to look year one? I don't know, because they lose so much production. You've got Donovan Edwards. That's a really good start. I think he might even be better than Blake Corum in some things, in some aspects. But you lose so much. This team is depleted from last year. And the Big Ten is going to be a little tougher. All right, Ohio State is better. Penn State's better. They bring in Oregon. They bring in Washington. It's going to be a little tougher with USC as well. But you lose so much. All right, like I still think they would have been national champions even in the Big Ten if this was this year. Don't get that confused. Like they would have beat Oregon, no problem. But they lose so many pieces that have been 3- and 4-year starters that have kind of built up for that national championship run. They're set for a step back. That's just going to happen, no doubt, when you lose so much and when you lose your head coach. All right, number 2, Notre Dame. All right, last year 10-3. I've seen them as high as number 5. All right, they bring in quarterback Riley Leonard from Duke. He's a really good ball player. He's a winner. Did really good things at Duke. They were like a top 15 team under him. He got injured, though. Is slightly injury prone. Now, Marcus Freeman, I don't think he's quite on the hot seat yet, talking about Notre Dame's head coach, but I think it's getting there. All right, he's done okay things, but he hasn't reached kind of that level that Kelly had at Notre Dame. I think they do have an outsider shot at making the college football playoff, have a pretty good schedule. They could realistically go undefeated this year, I think. So I could see them being a top 10 team for sure. I think I currently have them at like number 13, somewhere in that range. I think they could be really good. It's going to depend on Riley Leonard's health for the most part. If he can stay healthy, I think Notre Dame has a pretty good chance, though. All right, and number 1, Oregon. Okay, so I am pretty high on this team. Don't get it confused, but not quite as high as number 3. All right, I think they've done really good things in transfer portal. Let's not get that confused. Dillon Gabriel, I think, is probably the best player that was in the transfer portal. In my opinion, the best quarterback in the nation almost. What he did at Oklahoma was really impressive. Like, he beat Texas by himself. And I just talked about how big of a gap Oklahoma's going to have now that Dillon Gabriel's gone. They're going to take a big step back, I think. Oregon, though, last year, 12-2. All right, I've seen them at number 3, like I said, in most cases. I think they are going to be really good. I think I currently have them at number 8 in my rankings. They're really good. If they were still in the Pac-12, I'd be all right with having them number 3. But going to the Big Ten, you're going to have a little tougher schedule than you had in the kind of cakewalk that was the Pac-12. Big Ten is big boy football. All right, you're going to be playing Ohio State. You're going to be playing Penn State. You're going to be playing Michigan. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to have any cakewalks. You're going to even have to play Iowa. I know that's not the best, example, but Iowa is a little better than some of the Pac-12 teams. So I think Oregon's going to have a little trouble adjusting to that physicality in the Big Ten. I think they are still good, still could make the college football playoff, but it's probably going to come down to them and Penn State almost, because I think Ohio State is clear right now, one of the top 2 teams in the nation, no doubt. Oregon is right on that, like I said, 5-10, 4-10, somewhere in that range, I think. I think that's realistic. But number 3, I don't see is happening right now. I know a lot of people are high on them. I'm pretty high on myself. I'm not the biggest Oregon fan, but I think they are a really good football team this year. They put together a really good football team that should be able to compete with almost anybody, including Ohio State. So I think they're in store for a good year. But, again, leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten, I don't think that's as easy as a lot of people are assuming it's going to be. And I think that's definitely a step up in football. But let me know your top 10 most overrated teams down in the comments section. Who do you think should be off this list and who should be on this list? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video. And most importantly, subscribe.